Welcome to this explainer. When we think of Genghis Khan, we usually picture sprawling maps of conquered territories and, well, massive body counts. But today, we're going to look past all that to uncover an objective reality that is honestly way more fascinating. We're going to analyze him not just as a conqueror, but as a master state architect. Because the true story of the Mongol Empire, it isn't some classic hero's epic. It's a cold, calculated record of revenge, geopolitical math, and above all, unprecedented institutional invention. So how exactly did an abandoned kid redesign the entire political operating system of a continent? Let's find out.
Okay, here's a quick look at our roadmap for today. We'll be covering 1. The Crucible, 2. The State Machine, 3. Geopolitical Pivots, 4. The Khwarezmian Catalyst, and finally, number 5, the Architecture of Succession.
All right, part 1. The Crucible, forging the step logic.
To really understand this empire, we have to start at the absolute micro level, with a 9-year-old boy named Temujin. After his father was poisoned, his family was deemed basically worthless and completely abandoned out on the harsh steppe. To survive, they lived off wild roots, foraging for whatever they could find. And it was right here that the first recorded act of violence in Temujin's life occurred. In a desperate, bitter dispute over a single scavenged fish, Temujin killed his own half-brother, Begtur. Now we really need to contrast this desperate micro-level decision of sheer survival with its massive macro-historical implications, because this moment established a framework of ruthless pragmatism that would literally guide a future empire.
The crucial takeaway here is that this totally unsentimental logic, born directly out of childhood trauma, became the core operating system for all of his future decisions. Out on the steppe, if you show weakness, you're dead. There is no permanent kindness you can rely on. There's only permanent interest and the permanent threat of someone taking what little you have. This step logic governed every single alliance he ever made and every enemy he destroyed. Now look at how he applied this logic politically against his former blood brother Jamuka. At the Battle of the 13 Wings, Temujin actually lost the military fight. But Jamuka made a catastrophic political error. He actually boiled Temujin's captured men alive in cauldrons. In steppe political culture, this just broadcasted to everyone that Jamuka was totally erratic and untrustworthy. Temujin recognized this instantly. So rather than just lashing out for pure revenge, he capitalized on it. As terrified neutral tribes started defecting away from Jamuka, Temujin actively absorbed those defeated elites right into his own system. He turned a military defeat into a massive strategic upgrade in his own administrative and political capacity. Which brings us to part 2, the state machine, overcoming nomadic frailty. By 1206, Temujin had unified the tribes and taken the title Genghis Khan. But having seen the fatal flaws of clan loyalty up close, he knew that just conquering wasn't enough to survive. Think about the stark systemic contrast between the past and the future of the steppe here. The old aristocratic clan systems were inherently unstable. They relied entirely on bloodline loyalty, shaky oral traditions, and endless, exhausting blood feuds. Genghis Khan completely replaced all of that with a brand new military administrative grid. We're talking the decimal system, a unified script, and a standardized legal code. He didn't just conquer the steppe, he completely reformatted its society from the ground up. The absolute most revolutionary break from the past was the decimal system. He literally shattered the old structures of clan and bloodline, totally reassigning every single person into strict new units of 10, 100, and 1,000 households. It was a brilliant structural fix to a systemic disease. By dismantling those ancient bloodline ties, he made absolutely sure that loyalty no longer flowed upward to some local tribal chief of your birth clan, but flowed directly to the institutional machine itself. But, an institution needs a memory, and it needs rules. So after defeating the Naiman tribe, he captured their seal keeper and explicitly ordered him to record the Mongolian language using the Uyghur alphabet. For the very first time, decrees and taxes were permanent. On top of that, he established the Great Jasog. This written legal code finally put an end to centuries of that endless "you steal my cattle, I kill your cousin" tradition of blood feuds. It essentially welded all these scattered, warring tribes into one coherent, legally bound entity. Moving on to part 3, geopolitical pivots, expanding the empire. With the steppe internally unified and stabilized, this formidable new state machine was on a collision course with the major settled powers of the world. Picture this. It's 1211, and the Jin dynasty has massed a massive army in the mountainous terrain of Hebei, fully expecting the tough geography and their sheer numbers to stop the Mongols in their tracks. But the Battle of Yehuling decisively sealed North China's fate. It proved the completely unmatched military efficiency and organizational superiority of the Mongol cavalry. That strict, institutional discipline Genghis Khan had forged on the steppe, it just completely dismantled the imperial order of the Jin.
Let's zoom out for a second to look at the larger geopolitical picture. Back in 1125, the Jin had destroyed the Lao dynasty. The remnants of the Lao royal house ended up fleeing west and establishing Western Lao, or Kara-Kitai, in Central Asia. Well, by trying to eliminate a threat, the Jin accidentally planted the seed of their own destruction. Because when the Mongol general Jibei conquered Western Lao in the 1210s, he effectively seized a direct, pre-built strategic corridor pointing right into Central Asia.
And that triggers Part 4, the Khwarezmian Catalyst, an accidental shift west. Now, this western corridor is vital because a massive Mongol invasion of the West was actually never part of the original plan. The Mongol center of gravity shifted from China to the far west entirely because of a highly localized trigger, basically an explosive mix of micro-level greed and macro-level arrogance. By 1218, Genghis Khan's opening posture toward the Khwarezmian Empire in Central Asia was actually pretty cautious and restrained. He just wanted a profitable, peaceful trade route, not some insanely costly war. But on the other side, Sultan Muhammad of Khwarezmia arrogantly overestimated his own military strength. Commanding hundreds of thousands of men, he completely misunderstood the destructive institutional capacity of the newly unified Mongol state. And that was a fatal miscalculation.
History so often pivots on these tiny, almost trivial moments, right? A Khwarezmian border governor named Inalchuq decided, out of pure greed, to massacre a peaceful Mongol trade caravan. Had Sultan Muhammad simply handed over this one rogue governor to face justice, the Mongol strategic focus probably would have stayed entirely on conquering China. But Muhammad flat out refused, and that single micro-decision fundamentally shifted the entire Mongol Empire's geographic center of gravity. Khwarezmia was utterly annihilated, and a violent pathway into Persia, the Caucasus, and Europe was violently ripped open.
As a massive strategic byproduct of this Western conquest, Genghis Khan captured something way more valuable than gold: human capital. Central Asia and Persia possessed advanced Arab Islamic engineering and siege technology that the steppe completely lacked. So the Mongols set up this highly systematic technology pipeline, actively recruiting craftsmen and engineers right into their armies. This cross-cultural transfer gave the Mongols weapons like the devastating Hui Hui Pao, massive Muslim trebuchets, arming them with the best engineering in the world. It was a pipeline that would flow for decades, bearing its most destructive fruit during the campaigns of Genghis Khan's own grandsons.
Finally, we reach Part 5, the architecture of succession, engineering stability.
As we wrap up this explainer, we have to look at Genghis Khan's final structural masterpiece. Before his death in 1227, he faced the classic historical danger that threatened all steppe powers, the succession crisis. His eldest sons, Jochi and Chagatai, absolutely hated each other. Historical records actually describe them violently brawling, literally tearing at each other's collars right inside the royal tent. If this fraternal conflict was left unchecked after the Khan's death, the newly built empire would instantly shatter into a ruinous civil war, suffering the exact same fate as every nomadic empire before it.
So how did he solve it? With an absolute masterstroke of political judgment. He bypassed the warring older sons entirely. Instead, he chose his third son, Ogedei, who was known for being even-tempered and a solid mediator, to be the supreme Khan, giving him ultimate political authority. But he carefully separated this political authority from absolute military power by leaving his own elite forces and the core Mongolian homelands to his youngest son, Tolui. This carefully engineered balance of power ensured stable cooperation between Ogedei and Tolui's lineages, which allowed the empire to actually continue expanding for decades after its founder died.
History rarely cares if a conqueror was heroic or monstrous, but it keeps very precise records on longevity. Genghis Khan's true legacy was a system that severed the grip of bloodlines, replaced feuds with law, and engineered stable transitions of power. Because ultimately, it is institutions, not the conquests themselves, that determine survival. Which leaves us with a pretty provocative thought. When we look at the political structures of our world today, are our modern institutions truly built to outlast our own conquests? Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and keep questioning the history around you.